Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're located, and welcome to this What's New in FNaF 6.0 webinar. I'm Jan Sillermann, and with me today I have René Brummel and Michael Nielsen, and we'll get back to that in a few minutes. But before that, I like to just give a very few housekeeping things here. If you have any questions, please use the questions tool in GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar. We will either take them as we go along if they fit into what we talk about right now, or we will take them at the end. And we have set aside plenty of time for question and answers, so don't be shy. Please feel free to ask your questions. And the recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel, ForNAV Reports, sometime after we have finished today. So ForNAV 6.0, let me just give you an overview before we jump into actually looking at the product and the features itself. So first of all, this very long sentence, in short, that means we have support for Business Central version 18, which of course is one of the key things in ForNAV 6.0. On top of that, we have continued our focus on usability and really making sure that you can do all the work in the ForNAV Designer without having to touch Visual Studio Code. So we have some pretty cool new features that we will show you today that hopefully will make your life easier and increase your productivity when doing reports. We'll also have support for PDF-A. We have some enhancement to the FNaF standard reports, and of course we have an updated app available on Microsoft AppSource. So what we will show you today is, first of all, how you can take things from AppSource and work with them on Docker in a local environment. It's something we call the FNaF Runtime Package that René will take us through in just a few seconds. And the other part of the presentation today will cover many of the new features in 6.0. We now have the option to actually drag and drop a new data item directly from the toolbox into the report. There's a small wizard that helps you create the link between the tables. So it's really, really easy to add new things to reports, again, without touching code. We will also show you how we can create new tables and add the relations, how we can add watermarks based on page number, and we also have some new cool things around custom address formatting. So with that, let's move into looking at this. So we'll start with the moving things from AppSource to Docker. So René, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jan. I will just switch over to my screen, which takes a second. So today we're going to have a look at the ForNAV runtime packages, and this is going to be a fairly technical subject with a few PowerShell scripts. So if that's not your cup of tea, then please watch the presentation and please take to heart what we can do with the ForNAV runtime packages, because we can do some really nice things with them that especially the larger partners, Business Central partners, have been asking us for quite some time. So to demonstrate runtime packages, we will build a Docker system and we will run some automated tests, and I'll show you some build scripts. We'll start with the prerequisites, then we'll talk about what the runtime packages are, when they are used. Then we'll build a Docker installation with runtime packages, and finally we will do an automated build and test demo. The first question, of course, is what are the runtime packages? And the ForNAV runtime packages are an on-premise version of the ForNAV cloud reporting extension. They can contain everything you need to run, develop, and test ForNAV reports, and the runtime packages will work in an on-premise or a Docker installation. The code base is exactly the same as the Business Central Cloud extension, which means that all the layouts and reports you develop using these runtime packages are guaranteed to work on Business Central Cloud. The runtime packages don't use the ForNAV DLL, so they are easier to upgrade than the standard Business Central on-premise ForNAV reports. And where are these runtime packages used? They're used in an on-premise installation where the customer wants to migrate to cloud. So they want to set up the ForNAV reports as cloud already. And they don't want, or they are used in an on-premise installation where you get the hassle of upgrading the DLL. They're also used for testing, demonstration, and development of Business Central reports. And finally, and that's quite a hot topic in the Business Central world at the moment, they are used for automated builds and automated testing. And today I will demonstrate the test and demo for BC Cloud and the automated builds and tests. So without too much more PowerPoint talk, let's go into what we can do. Let's build a Docker installation with the runtime packages. Now, of course, to build a complete Docker image takes some time, even if you already have the images downloaded on your system. So what I've taken the liberty of is I have created my Docker images in advance. So right here I have my BC18 runtime Docker image, which is a standard Business Central Docker sandbox. And in my setup and extensions, you will notice there's no ForNAV. There's actually nothing in here that is not part of the standard Business Central Docker image. So there's nothing in here already. And what I want to do is set up the Docker image so I can test and develop and demo my ForNAV report. So I need the ForNAV runtime packages in here. To do that, I've created a script. And this PowerShell script is fairly standard. Of course, we import the BC container helper, which helps us to set up these Business Central Docker containers. We'll load the BC artifact, in this case I'm just using the country base because that contains actual test data. I give it a name, I have some credentials, and very importantly, I load a Business Central BC18 file with the ForNAV granule added to it. So I need a developer or a customer license that has the ForNAV objects added to it. Otherwise, this whole thing doesn't work. Then, of course, I have my script to create my new BC container, which is fairly standard. And finally, to create my container, I add my fonts to my container. I add the fonts to my container because otherwise my reports look a bit weird. So that's the basics. That's what I've done so far. So I will quickly comment this out because I don't really need this at the moment. The next steps are to install the ForNAV runtime packages. The ForNAV runtime packages actually contain 4 apps. You can see them right here in my document list. The first one is the ForNAV language module. The second one is the ForNAV core, which, as you may know, is the basic part of the ForNAV extension. I will actually do the rendering. We have the ForNAV customizable report pack, which contains all of the reports that people use. And finally, this is an extension that is only ever necessary for the ForNAV runtime packages, the ForNAV service. And you only need to install the ForNAV service if you actually want to run and demonstrate the reports. So in this case, we want to create a Docker image which we can use to test and demo. So we need them. And all we need to do right now is run this script. Like I said, I commented out all of the container creation stuff because that takes forever and is not actually very interesting. And running this script is not very interesting either, but I need to demonstrate something. So with any luck, this is going to start. There we go, it's uploading the extensions right now and it's synchronizing them. Which always takes a long time if you're actually waiting for it. But the nice part about these scripts is that you can actually run them and forget about them and get a cup of coffee or do some actual work and get back to them when they're done. The message you're seeing right now here is the package built with a different version. The runtime packages are major version specific, so you can only install the BC18 versions of the runtime packages on a BC18 system, but they're not minor version specific. You might get a warning saying that they're built for a different specific version, but that's not a big issue. Then we will have the final extension of ForNAV service. And that's all done. So that's my script done. Now I can go back to my Business Central container and let's reload, because after installing an extension, your user interface needs to reload. You will notice I now have my ForNAV menu option here, which we'll look at later. And in my setup and extensions list, you will notice I have the customizable report pack, which I've installed, and the ForNAV core, the ForNAV language module, which are commonly known on BC Cloud, and the ForNAV service, which, as I said, is only needed if you actually need to render the reports in a user setting. So once all of that is done, I can open my ForNAV standard reports list, which is going to ask me, do you want to set up ForNAV? Because like I said, this is a brand new install. I just spun it up half an hour ago. So it needs to be set up with the standard information. And once done, I have my ForNAV reports and I can run my report. Which also takes a while in a new system. But there you go. My report has run, and the reason these fonts look different to the normal fonts, these are the TrueType fonts that are the fallback for Business Central reports, is that I have installed the new fonts on my container, but I didn't restart the container after installing the fonts. That's just a simple matter of just restarting the container, and then the fonts will look fine as well. So that's the setting up a Docker demo or a dev environment. This is great if you're a developer and you want to develop reports, especially if you have a lot of colleagues that also work with these. You don't need to use a specific Docker instance. You can just spin up a Docker container and load the ForNAV runtime packages there. So that's the first step. The second one is the automated test demo, which is also slightly abstract. But one of the questions we've had in the last year or so is a lot of the predominantly the bigger ForNAV partners are using automated build and automated test systems to do nightly builds and tests of everything they build for a customer. Basically, during the daytime, all the developers will be busy building reports, building extensions, doing all sorts of things. And at night, the first thing that happens is all the code that has been checked in source control is going to be compiled and built into an extension or multiple extensions. The second step is all of those extensions will be uploaded to a server, and then some automated tests will be run just to make sure that nobody has actually broken anything inadvertently. So that's a big thing at the moment. And of course, if you create ForNAV reports in one of those extensions that are going to be automatically built, you actually need the ForNAV extensions in your automated build system. And that is where we are now. That is this particular bit of demo. So once again, we go to PowerShell. And in PowerShell, I have a second script, my Docker test script. And in this Docker test script, I have the basics. I get the artifacts, which is the same artifacts as I used previously. I have a container name, credentials. I have a license file. Once again, the license file is important because you actually need a license with the ForNAV objects added to it. Then I create a BC container, which is slightly different because this time I include the test toolkit, which really takes forever to install because those are quite a number of apps that need to be installed. But the test toolkit is necessary, of course, to run automated tests. You will notice I don't install any of the fonts because this is an automated test system. I'm never going to log on to it. All I'm ever going to use this for is to run some automated tests and to tell me what the result of those tests are. So I don't need to bother with fonts. Then I will install my ForNAV runtime packages. And like I said before, I don't actually need to render the reports. I just need to make sure that, that my apps can build and install. So I'm going to install the language module, the core, and customizable report pack. They need to be installed in this particular order, by the way, because of some underlying dependencies. I'm not going to install the ForNAV service because I'm not going to run the reports myself. And then with the specifics, in this case, I'm going to install the multiple report layout selector, which is an AppSource app, which also contains some automated tests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the app file that was built in my build process. Then I'm going to install the automated test extension that was built by my build process. And finally, I'm going to run these automated tests in my container. And the big trick, of course, is that my multiple report layout selector extension has a dependency on the ForNAV customizable report pack, and that's the reason why I need this. ForNAV runtime packages. So as before, I have created the container already, so I don't need to mess about with that. I don't need to get the artifacts. It takes forever as well. So all I'm going to do is I need container name because I need to know which container I need to install my extensions in. Then I need to install my extensions and run my automated test. So that is what I'm going to tell PowerShell to do. And this, once again, I'm afraid takes a short while because, well, publishing these extensions do take a short while. And this script takes even longer because I need to install more extensions. But it seems to be doing quite well. And everything, of course, grinds to a halt. I really, really wanted to do this without having to bolt and Murphy, but let's do it this way. Apparently, I needed the credentials to run the automated tests, so let's do that. It's now saying it's running the tests in an AV container. It's running the first code unit with a bunch of tests, which are all successful. Then it's running the second code unit with a bunch of tests, and then it's done. So you can imagine if you do this at night, developers have been building, developers have been checking in code. That code gets compiled, and at night you run a nightly test just to make sure nobody has broken anything. That's incredibly valuable, especially if you have a lot of developers working on the same project. In my case, I maintain the multiple report layout selector, this extension we just installed. I do that on my own, but I still use these build scripts in order to make sure that whatever I've done doesn't break anything. So it's even for smaller teams, it's quite valuable. So let's recap what we did. We spoke about what the runtime packages are and where they can be used. And then we looked at some of the usage scenarios. We built a Docker installation with the runtime packages in order to create a development or test or demo system. And we demonstrate the automated build and tests. The scripts I've been using, they are no secret at all. They are on the ForNAV training GitHub, which you can find in github.com/ForNAV/ForNAV.training. Contains a number of things that we share with ForNAV users. And in this case, I've just uploaded the ForNAV runtime packages, where you can find the two scripts I've just demonstrated and an install script in order to install the runtime packages in Business Central on-premise. With that, I'm at the end of my part of the presentation. So Jan, back to you.
Thank you, René. And I do apologize for the crackling sound. We actually tested twice prior to this meeting where everything worked fine, but apparently Murphy also wanted to get involved in this part of the show. Anyway, thanks, René. And before moving on, Michael, I know you have some comments about how we see this and especially how we see the future of this.
Yeah, so we know it's a bit confusing because so far we had FNaF on-prem for PC on-prem and we had FNaF Cloud for PC Cloud. But now we have FNaF Cloud for on-prem, which we also are confused about. But the whole benefit of this is that you can actually run as the same way as you would run on a PC Cloud, but you can run it on-prem or in a Docker. And that makes you come really close to the cloud experience. Also, the new runtime packages have the advantage that they don't require a DLL installed. A lot of you have complained about that customers don't like this or your developers don't like that, but here there's no DLL, there's just app files. So also we enable, if you want to run this in production, you can simply install these on a standard PC 17 or 18 on-prem installation. And then you just order a license from Jan and you run just like you do on-prem. Moving forward, we'll need to figure out if this is long-term replacing the DLL version of the on-prem, or we're going to stick with both of them. We are in conversation with Microsoft of actually adding AppSource to Docker or on-prem, so you can actually install these packages without having to download them from us. So that is likely to happen in the future. So you can just download them automatic, so you don't have to ask us every time. So the short-term plan is to create a landing page where we can provide you these bits again for 17 or 18. And also René will provide some training material on how to use them. But so far, if you want to get your hands on this, you simply write to support@FNaF.com, and then we'll send you the link to use this. We already have a couple of partners who are using this in production and also doing testing, but you can just ask and you'll get the bits. So this is the purpose of this is just to show you what we're doing for the future, and we're ready to do this. So Jan, should we move on?
Yeah, please do. So
Yep.
you can just take over the presentation.
So I need to do this, show my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to take you through a number of these improvements and then talked about at the start of the presentation. And I'm going to start on-prem, but this could just as well be cloud. Everything works exactly the same. So I'm going to use the FNaF customer list as the guinea pig for this. So I'm going to start the designer from in here and bring this up. So first thing we added in this new release is that we added a new property called PDF compatibility in here. And in here you can select between PDF and the 3 different PDF archive formats that exist out there. And the reason for adding PDF-A or archive is that in a lot of countries right now, we see that local governments, they demand that you use PDF-A instead of PDF. And the reason for this is that PDF was born in a time where you only had PC and Mac computers. And basically you have some parts on PDF, but the rest is actually on your machine. And this new world of devices and Linux, that doesn't fit anymore. So, and actually if you can see this live, because in the Business Central preview control, that's just a web control that runs on a web server. That control does not have any clue about what Windows and Mac can do. So you'll see in some cases that it will not be able to show stuff because it's simply not part of the PDF that's in there. And the problem is even bigger because RDLC, which was born 15 years ago or something, only supports a format called PDF 1.3, I believe. And in FNaF we support 1.7, which is a new one, so you cannot do this with RDLC. But anyway, we added these formats in here, and we also make sure that they pass validation, because it's really easy to make a PDF, PDF, because you can just turn a flag in there. but it has to go through validation because there's a lot of character maps and other stuff that needs to be put in the right way. But we passed validation on this, and you can use these to render PDF A forward. Also, I got a surprise because I always heard that PDF A is bigger files than PDFs, but actually the other way around, because PDF uses a new compression algorithm. Again, a lot of things happened over 15 years, and PDF also improved. But it's in there now, and you can use it in production. All the readers, modern readers, can read PDFA, so you won't run into anything there. Next thing that's new is something we call field extensions. And in here I got my list data on which is actually a customer. You can see there's a new branch up here called field extension. In here, this has all the fields that are normal in a record, and of course it also shows the ISV fields and your own fields from your tables in there. But there was what this field extension is doing, and actually I'm going to show you something that's not been reached yet. So Jan let me do that, and that's the new editing experience in FNaF that's going to be released in June sometimes. Like in the old days, you simply press this, and instead of getting this old clunky JavaScript editor we had previously, you now get something that looks like the Visual Studio Code editor, and it's beyond looking like the Visual Studio Code editor. It actually is the Visual Studio Code editor. So the same thing what we have adopted. It's an open source component that we simply yanked into our designer experience. But we know that you're all keen of the old F5 button in C-side, so we kept the tree view over here, so you can still go in and drag things in or click them in. So I can take the amount field, so that's in there. But you can also in here see here that IntelliSense is enabled by default. So if I just write list, you'll get all the field from the customer in here, and you get things like current report .NET format, which is a function we had ever ages, but not many people know it because you couldn't find it. And in here you simply tell it to go to current report .today, and then there's a format. Like everybody else, I cannot remember these .NET formats, but the beauty of this is I can simply go to the format .NET format signature over here and go and click on this parameter, and I'll get this find web page in here and can see, okay, I want to have the long day pattern. That's capital D, and I'll just write this and I'm done. Also, you get the full JavaScript library also for free in here. So this returns a string. So if I press dot, you'll see all the different JavaScript functions, and there's tons of them that can do a lot of really nice things. So I can go and say I want to replace this and take the slashes and replace with a period instead. So so what we have created here is an experience where you basically have everything you have in AL and also more, because you still have the old tree view. But as a starting point, I wanted to explain what this field extension function is doing. And if you just write it like this, just click this in here. What it does is that, now complaints about confirmation, you actually also get syntax error in here. If you just write like this, it'll simply write the phone number caption and then a colon and then the phone number value. Unless the phone number is blank, then it will just output the blank string. And of course, the purpose of this is that you don't want to have any of these dangling captions in your report. So where it says phone number, but there's actually no phone number, but it's not filled in. And with this, you are actually guaranteed that you get both or nothing. So this is also a way of doing this. And also in here, in the old FNaF reports, we used something called a question mark operator, which except if you are a C nerd, then you have no clue what that is. So we replace it with something that can actually read. So what this does is that it uses something join format that tells us that you want to have, instead of having just colon, you want to have a space between the caption and the value. And then you basically join the strings that comes next after this. with this vertical line in here, and then you take them from one. I want the phone number, the email, and so on down here, and that's what's printed in the footer. And all the standard reports FNaF has this now. So whenever you open this, you can see the new values and go and modify this if you want to have different information in here. Okay, but the answer also promised that we had improved usability in here, and let me show you some of things we have done. So if I go to the toolbox, we have something new. We have a data item control in here. If I drag this in and put this on my customer, I can select the table I want to put in as a sub data item. So in here, if I do sales header, then you can see it automatically fills out the data item link. That's can be cumbersome if you don't know how these are related, but now we know how all these are related, so we will fill this out automatically. And of course, we figure out that on a customer there's a field called sell to customer that you can hook up. On the sales header, you have a field called sell to customer. We can hook up with the number of the customer. So that's pretty easy. And also by default, we know what a sales header is. So we'll fill out the sorting and the document type. In this case, we have selected order, but you can easily change it to the other document types, of course. So with just a few clicks, we have a data item, we have a link, and we have the sorting. So let's go and do something with this. So I'm going to very fast do a new data item. So I'm going to put in a body section. I'm going to take the number up here and then press Control to multi-select and then take the amount, put it in here. So now I got find table in here. Make this smaller. When I do this, I click back on the sales header, you can see that automatic detect that amount is a calculated field. So this is just put in. Because that's a normal error. You forget to calculate it and then you get 0, which is not fantastic. Then we are going to insert a footer section in here. And down here, we're simply going to steal this up here and copy it in. And then instead of having number up here, we probably want to have a caption. If you're US, you just write total down here, but if you are other parts of the world, you probably want to have a standard caption, so that is translated for you. So I'm going to go in and replace this. So now we got the standard caption called total in here. And again, I have dragged the amount in. If I click back on the sales header, you can see that now I added a total field, so we'll automatically total the amount for all the invoices. So now what we're missing in here is a header. And I'm going to do like before and go and to the sales header around here, do the number. No, I'm not going to take the number. I got lost and I need to go to the captions, get the number, and then the amount up here. Did I select both of them? I don't think so. No. Let's try this again. I forgot to press Control, which is going to end up doing nothing then. So amount, and here you can see now I got the field captions for this and this up here. And if I click on this, you can see that this also brings up the new JavaScript editor in here. So I now got this, and I probably want to right align this and left align the amount down here, and also the total is okay. So now I actually created a new sub report in here, and you can see up here, this is actually a layout. And in FNaF, you can simply add data items to layout without having to change the AL code. So no need for doing change of your AL code or adding report extensions in here. It simply sits in the layout, and everything is untouched. And of course, the huge benefit of this is that you only touch the layout, and that's data, and data can be moved very easy between your different Business Central tenants, and it's not touching your code. So it's a better way of doing these changes, at least in our book. So now we got this in here, and we can actually go and do preview it, so we can actually see how this looks. Of course, the reason why we automatically generate these data item links is I did this demo a lot of times, and I always forgot to put in the data item link, and then I got all the orders, of course. If I zoom in a bit, you can actually see that actually doing something. So of course you would have to work on the formatting, but you can see it's fairly easy just to add things in here. And I got the amounts over here, I got the total, which actually is correct. Let's find back to the designer and do some more. One thing which has always been the problem with using JavaScript is that you, if you do something wrong, you only know that it's wrong when you actually run the report, and even then you don't know what actually hit you. So let's go and see how the new editor can actually help you do this. So let's say on pre-data item, I want to have a total. So I go and create a JavaScript total which costs 0 in here. And we're good to go. And then in the on after gate record, I want to use this, and let's say I try to write total with a capital T. It says there's nothing like that, so I probably want to use total instead, and I set it there. So now I can write equal, and let's say, oh, I forgot that this is actually a number. So now the compiler will complain that this is actually never going to be true because the total is a number. So if I change this to 1, it will actually say I'm happy now. Of course, we know that total is set to was it 0 before, so this is not true. But in real life, it would work because you probably set it in anywhere. So so the new editor is also going to help you make error-free reports from the start. So you don't have to wait until you run the report to see what actually wrong. It'll actually show you if something is undefined or you abusing the type system, just like you have in other languages. But also showing a bit more of the improved usability. Let's go and add some more things to this. So just like in AL, where you can add records, we have something called JavaScript records that's a lot of people use. In this case, we have combination and FNaF setup. And let's just go and add a new table that we want to use to look up some data. So up here, I can write the table number. So people like Tommy and others who are on the call, they know the numbers in here, but I need to write the name. But you can write the number or just shorthand it if you want to. And then I say I want to put this together with lists. And what happens now, I tie this link reference to the customer, and it for every customer I iterate over, I automatically get the contact with this link over here. So again, don't have to code anything, it's simply in there. And now I got the contact over here, so it's in my list, and I can actually just go and modify my contacts in here and put in more fields. So let's use the email and put this in here and make it red so we can actually see it. Again, we do preview so we can see what's going on. And now you got the list in here. So whatever you do in here that has to do with lookup in the business central table or field system, we have wizards that will help you. We're reading a bit low on time, so let me just continue in here and show you how to create a new table. Let's just one more comment. So Jan also mentioned that we have added support for custom addresses, and the beauty of this, you can actually not see this anywhere. But in Business Central, I believe it was 14, Microsoft added the support for custom address formatting. Because before that, you could basically choose between 3 or 4 different formats where if zip code should be before city or vice versa. But now they have actually added the capability for you to enter your own formats. So you can decide if you want to have contact with your address or if you want to pin the country at all. Beforehand, you had to do that in code, but that's now a part of Business Central. And actually, the only thing we did was to support this custom address format. So when you use the field groups over here with the address, we'll detect that this is custom format, then we will format the address according to that. So it's just baked in, so you probably won't think about it, just works moving forward, also for all reports. But the last thing I'm going to show you today is that is capability of creating new reports. So for a couple of versions, we had the capabilities of adding new fields to an existing table in there, but a lot of people ask us if can you do new tables, and we decided to actually put this in. So I want to go to. Actually, I need to create a new report because you cannot save this in layout because it requires CodeGen. So I'm going to just create a new report real fast. You can also do it on the one I showed you, but you need to make a copy of it because it actually requires a new object. But let's see it and just take a latest template because that's fairly easy to change. So now we're ready to go. So in here, you can see that the extend page tables like before are in there, but I can also go and add a new table. Let's say I want to have a new table called staff, and we have already detect that there's a free number in here. You can also, of course, add your own one. And there's a new, I probably used the this table before, but there's also a free page number and I can use. So let's go in here and look at the fields. I can see that I by default have created 2 fields called key and value, but let's go and change this. So let's say I want to attach this to the customer, so this will probably be customer number, and this will be the liaison would be 18 up here, and this could be person in here. And by the way, up here, if you relate this to customer, we'll look up that actually the customer number and the number on the customer has the same data type, in this case code, and the same length 30, because we have seen a lot of people, including myself, over the years, where I have put in the wrong length, and then suddenly somebody calls and say I get an overflow when I run the code. But we simply fix this before it even happens. So I got this new record in here, and I can simply go and again add a new record with staff, set up the link up here, and you can see this detects that customer number actually fits together with number on the customer. You don't have to do anything more. And now I simply got the staff over here, and my fields are ready to be used over here. So this is already in version 6, but we played around with this and did a couple of more tricks in here. I go back in here and go to the fields in here. I can add some new things in here. So everybody knows that adding a memo field to a page is not the funniest thing in the world, because you cannot just write the name of the blob in the page. That won't work. You need to basically define streams and then copy out the text in a variable and define that and put that on your page and so on. So it actually requires a lot of code to have in there. So let's create a memo field in here. press OK in the wizard, and now we can see that default subtype is memo, and we probably also want to do a bitmap. So I go in at the blob called bitmap. And here, press OK, and then I want to change the subtype to bitmap in here. So now I've got these two guys in here, and the last thing I'm going to add is I want to have something called a home address, and normally you would have to define 7 fields and set up tabulations and so on, and also then you would have to work on translations. But we also baked into a new data type we call address that's built on top of the address concept in Business Central. So now I have these guys in here. Press OK, you'll see over here I suddenly get all these guys in here, and I even get a field group with my home address I can just use. So basically all of this you get just by doing a few clicks, and we even make sure that the code actually works underneath. I want to leave some time for questions, so I'm actually just going to show you how this code looks. So I could just save this on the server, but in this case I'm going to use a small extension project I created. I already got some of it in here, but just going to override it. So now I've gone to this project in here. You can see that this looks wrong. Probably have this is the wrong extension, so it's in my address demo. At least I hope so. Okay. So now the few clicks I created, now it's missing the symbol, so I'm going to ignore that. And here, but you can see that we generate all the code in here. So you can upload this to BC directly, or you can download the code to work on it. Create the primary key. We create the stream code to get the memo field. Then we create the page in here, and we have the on-off get record code to yank out the demo field. And now we simply have a page in here with all the fields on it, the bitmap, the memo, and the address, just by doing this. And we also, if I go back in here, you can see that on the address fields we have something that's called a caption class. And what we do is that we simply tell the system that the caption class key is FNaF, and then when we get that, we simply look up the caption in table 18, which is of course customer, and then take field 5, which is address, and then we show that. So in this case, there's no need for translating any of the address field. That's done for you, so no need for XLF files in here. And also, if you use the FNaF language functionality, you can also go and translate the word home into whatever foreign language term you have to. So translation is built in here from the start, and you don't have to waste hours on doing this and creating these XLF files in here. So we want to leave some time up for question, but I hope you get the idea that the FNaF environment is extremely productive, and you can do a lot of things in very little time and do something better with your life than writing columns and writing AL code. Of course, all of this can also be done in AL code if you want to. We have sort of a two-way street where you can do some of it in FNaF, save this in AL, and then change it in AL, bring it back into Designer and work more on this. So we don't limit the use of Visual Studio Code, we just extend it. But the big thing, of course, here is that you can see this, the editor in here, when you're used to the AL editor in Visual Studio Code, you will feel right at home with the new editor we have brought in, because it's simply the same and you use it the same. And it's a lot more productive than what we had before. So Jan, I think we should go back to questions.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So far we have 0 questions, but I will definitely give you a chance to write in your question. And while doing so, let me just jump back here. So please feel free to ask questions in the tool if you have any. And while you do that, there's a few things I want to mention. One thing is that some of you might have heard that Microsoft have some plans to move to NetCall. Like anything else Microsoft has done so far, we will of course follow, and we have already made some initial prototyping on this. So whenever Microsoft is ready with NetCall, we will be there as well. So this is just your security that this will happen with FNaF as well. I also want to promote our knowledge base or KB articles. There's a lot of them available on our website. These are just some of the more recent examples. And I also want to take this opportunity to show that we have addressed some of the new things, some of the new capabilities in Business Central 18. Microsoft have added barcode functionality, and they have also added universal print. And many people have asked us, so how do you position that? And that's basically what we try to do in these KP articles. So of course we appreciate whatever Microsoft is doing, but we also want to make sure that everybody understands the difference between that and what we do in FNaF. So with that, if you have any questions, feel free. Don't be shy.
And also, if you want to have your hands on the new runtime package bits that we have, just write to support@FNaF.com, and we'll send you the copies. But the same, we have a lot of people who are not shy to ask questions. So we have Sam and Tim and Tom and Tommy and a lot of other people. So it's probably Corona.
So while giving you a last chance to ask any questions, let me just do a quick summary here. Of course, we showed you some new things in 6.0, and I really hope if you haven't done so already, please download it from our website or from AppSource if you run cloud. I also want to promote our coffee breaks. I think we have a long list now of different topics, both function-wise and more technical stuff. 10-15 minutes short videos with typically one topic. So please go and check them out. And we have already planned coffee breaks until the end of June, and that list is also available. We have a question, Michael. We have 2, we have 3. So it worked.
So people
not a question, but a thanks.
Let me pop this out.
So while you read it, when will the new version with the JavaScript editor be made available? That will be in early June, as it's planned right now.
Yeah. But if you cannot wait, we can write support@FNaF.com. You can get one because it actually works now. So we don't foresee any changes. So and Thomas is writing the table number is 50/50. So I don't remember that joke, Tommy, but you need to tell me.
Good. So with that, any future plans? Yeah. Any future plans for PDF encryption option in Designer?
Yeah. So actually, we talked about PDF encryption, also adding digital signatures, but we decided to wait until we had this out there. It's not a big deal to add it, but we just wanted to figure out if there's any need for having this. So the caveat here, however, is that a PDFA cannot be encrypted because then it's not a PDFA. but the question for normal PDF are valid, then you might want to encrypt them. So it's definitely something we consider. So just write us what you need it for, and we probably would put it in a new release, because the component we're using is providing this out of the box, and we just need to add the dots in there to make it work.
So with that, I'd like to thank you, René, and you, Michael, and of course, everybody who participated for joining. And as mentioned earlier, this recording will be available on YouTube shortly. So thank you, everybody, and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.